Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the #1 source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter. Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter, and welcome to Goldilocks Global Banking News. I am your host, beautiful folks. What Goldilocks is sharing today is very profound. I'm not going to go into extreme detail today about what Goldilocks shared about what Iraq is doing to prepare for the Iraqi dinar to go international. Goldilocks shared in writing today directly from the CBI, about Iraq's plans to go international. Goldilocks has been sharing for a little over 2 to 3 years specifically about what Iraq has been doing regarding their banking system in order to prepare for the eventual revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. And Goldilocks has been sharing that directly from the CBI. The CBI has not been shy or secretive about their plans and what they're doing. It's all right there in writing. But Goldilocks has been the only source that's been showing that. On Saturday Night Dialogues, I will go into detail about what the CBI posted on January the 20th about the international integration of the Iraqi dinar into the banking system, into the international banking system. It's in writing. We will share that. I will touch on it briefly today, but not as much. There's other very important information that Goldilocks is sharing today that's connected to the global banking system. So the global currency reset, which would include other currencies besides the dinar. Let's jump right into it. Many of you probably are aware, I'm sure you're paying attention, about the World Economic Forum when President Trump was there making a speech. The World Economic Forum in Davos, which is from the 19th to the 23rd, many people, I'm sure, relatively have been following the World Economic Forum for years and have an opinion of it. How is the World Economic Forum in any way, shape, or form, folks, connected to global currencies? Aren't most, if not all, of the countries represented at the World Economic Forum? Don't all of these countries have currencies that will eventually revalue in the new banking system? Isn't the World Economic Forum a place where the who's who heads of states are there to plan, strategize, organize for global events? No. This is not where they will plan and meet for the RV. Because if that was the case, they would have been done that. The World Economic Forum is a global world stage where the leaders of every country, most of them, are there to plan. It is relative to those individual countries and what those leaders are implementing, but they're all connected. In the new banking system, it is no coincidence that we are in a new digital banking system which allows every country and their currencies to link instantly through technology. Where it's been mentioned before how even in Iraq, for the longest of time that we can remember, Iraq, with billions and billions of daily transactions on the water through trade, for as long as we can remember, it was done manually, no technology. Think about that. Billions in currencies changing hands at the ports, manually, paper currencies in the billions. Can you imagine the manipulation, the corruption, and the thievery going on that went on? Now we're moving into a digital banking system that's large in part being eliminated. The World Economic Forum on the world stage, there are 5 interconnected challenges that are guiding the discussions at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Goldilocks share them. Number 1, how can we cooperate, these countries cooperate in a more contested world, dealing with new security risk, sovereignty disputes, trade conflicts, especially now because of tariffs, and tackling geopolitical issues. They're talking about how can they unlock new sources of growth for each country, exploring new pathways to build their countries. How can they respond to uncertainties like tariffs? All of this is connected to their currencies. One of the topics also is how they can invest in their people in their own countries, focusing on their workforce, human impacts of technology and economic shifts in their countries. You don't think their currencies are interwoven in this? They're discussing how can they deploy innovation and scale responsibly within their countries using artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, folks, is the number 1 source of technology that will be responsible for converting currencies to their actual real values in the new banking system. Then they're discussing how they can build, these countries are discussing how they can build prosperity within certain boundaries of their own systems, their energy, their nature, their water, their climate, human improvement in their countries. They're discussing how they can include resilience and innovation and real world events that dominate, such as Trump's tariffs. Where is Trump? In Davos discussing all of this. Who is responsible for the RV? Trump. What did Trump's administration say? Currency revaluation is likely to be a priority of his second administration. He's implementing that through tariffs. See, many people are thinking that tariffs is his hammer on the head of all of these different countries just to tax them and make money. It's his way to level the playing field, as he said he would. Goldilocks then asked a very poignant question about Davos, about these topics. And the question is, do these topics set up a foundation of global currency price movement? Do these topics in Davos set up a foundation for global currency price movement? Goldilocks states indirectly, yes, they do. But not through direct focus on specific exchange rate policies or coordinated currency interventions, which remain absent from highlighted sessions. This is not going to be there in the public open discussions about currency interventions so the world can listen and hear. Those are discussions most likely for behind the scenes. Goldilocks is sharing that discussions are contested, around geopolitics, tariffs, and protectionism for these countries to protect themselves, their trade flows, and currency markets, which are very volatile. They're discussing investor sentiment around their policies, their policy reactions, their trade flows, and how their central banks handle monetary policies. All of these discussions, these conversations, signal potential for sustained uncertainty, which this uncertainty is good. Why? It creates volatility in the currency markets. Volatility creates price movement on the currencies. They influence trade flows. They influence relative currency valuations more than setting explicit currency frameworks. Meaning, their discussions doesn't determine exchange rates. However, their discussions will eventually lead to the policies and measures that each country makes that will have an indirect impact on how their countries move in the global banking system, which ultimately would affect their individual currencies. See, and when you have Iraq, that in their little corner of the world, that are publicly stating their intentions to integrate into the international banking system, the training that they've implemented, the reforms that they've implemented, the steps that they are taking, of course, it inevitably leads to the increasing in the value of the Iraqi dinar. Because why? Integrating into the international banking system is the dinar integrating into the international banking system, whereby it will need an international rate. The steps they are taking, the reforms they made, the measures they are implementing, all leads to the inevitable. Iraq knows they must be on board with the rest of the world. Iraq doesn't want to be left behind. All these various countries are integrating into the new banking system. Why would Iraq not want to be a part of that? They've been preparing for this for years, especially since the current prime minister went into office in 2023. As we've stated, everything is connected to everything. There are no coincidences at all. Not in life, and definitely not in the finance world. Everything is calculated. Even though there are contingencies based on those calculated activities in the finance world, those contingencies are called insurance policies. No, not life insurance policies, but just like it, but to have safe protections in place, especially integrating into a new system. Goldilocks then shares a very important update from the Commodities Future and Trade Commission. Goldilocks has been updating and sharing what the Commodities Future Trade Commission has been doing for quite some time. The Commodities Future Trade Commission, folks, is highly important to the revaluation of currencies. Why? What's going to back our currencies? Commodities. What are commodities? Agriculture products. Farming products, which are agriculture. Coal, wheat, corn, wood. These are commodities that back a country. These are commodities that are traded on the water between countries. And as these countries trade amongst each other, they have to pay each other in their own currencies moving forward. This is how our currencies move. So the chairman of the Commodities Future Trade Commission issued a statement that Goldilocks put out and Goldilocks shared. It's a statement that signals that the U.S. financial markets, especially digital asset trading, are poised for a major advancement into a modern regulated digital asset based system. That's the new banking system. Why is it so important? Digital asset trading, digital asset based system. What are the regulations that the U.S. is looking to implement right now? Digital asset regulations. What are the regulations that Iraq passed a year and a half ago? Digital asset regulations. What are the regulations that Vietnam passed last spring, almost into the summer? Digital asset regulations, and the U.S. is behind. The infighting of the politicians right now. But not just the politicians, but the banks. They seem to be now at the point of, it's all negotiations, that's all it is. They seem to have an agreement. Close to an agreement. The chairman of the CFTC, Commodities Future Trade Commission, he declared openly in writing that markets are ready for a golden age. Does that sound familiar? From the president? He stated that the markets are poised for a golden age driven by blockchain, artificial intelligence, and innovations like 24/7 peer-to-peer trading and advanced risk hedging. Folks, the new digital banking system, whereby all of our currencies will be exchanged on, it's a blockchain. The old system, the old traditional system is not a blockchain. It's a block. A lot of blocks were going on. Now we are moving into the blockchain. This is the new technology. Think of when you, for those of you that have been around long enough to, when you had those block car phones or block phones that, those car phones. Remember the car phones used to be so big, like a brick, like a block? Now you could just have your smartphone and sync it up to your car. Yeah, the block phones. Those car phones. I used to have one. I used to have a big old block, carry it in a black bag, put it in the car, connect it to the cigarette lighter. Boom. Had a car phone. That's the old bank system. Now, we're in the new one. And the Commodities Future Trade Commission, the CFTC, currency is going to be backed by commodities. And the new chair, the new head is stating the new digital commodities are forthcoming, and the U.S. is poised to be one of the leaders in innovation and innovating this path. The passage of the digital asset regulations, it would grant the Commodities Future Trade Commission primary oversight. Primary oversight. And remember, the new chairman is who President Trump put into place. How the Commodities Future Trade Commission, how all this with the new digital regulations that are expected and hopeful to pass, it ends uncertainty that drove many firms away out of the U.S. and brings them back home. It modernizes the new banking system and the participation of over $3 trillion in the digital economy. Goldilocks finalizes by stating that while the Clarity Act, which is the digital asset regulations, it faces ongoing Senate negotiations, the chairman of the CFTC states that a proactive stance under President Trump signals the momentum towards a structured, innovative digital asset trading ecosystem. 'Cause, 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 ' There are several, many I should say, hands on deck to ensure that the foundation is set here in the U.S. as the world's leader in the global financial markets. These digital asset regulations are key, very pivotal, that will affect all the other countries and their currencies. Why? The U.S. is the largest trading partner for just about every country around the world. Italy, Russia, China, Vietnam, Iraq, Venezuela, Budapest, Singapore, Malaysia, the Philippines, you name the country. The U.S. is most likely the largest trading partner. So as the U.S. goes with digital regulations, although many other countries already have, things should begin to move even more favorably in the new banking system around the world. So as we move forward, as we see things begin to continuously develop, we are at a point to know, have faith in, I don't want to tell you what to do, but I would encourage you to have faith in what you've invested in. One of the ways that can help build your faith and your confidence is to pay attention to what Goldilocks has been putting out directly from the sources, like today where the central bank of Iraq, the CBI, who is responsible for the dinar, let it be known of their intentions to integrate into the international banking system. On Saturday Night Dialogues, we will go into more depth on this topic from the CBI directly so that you are aware. Be well, be kind, and always be in love and humility.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the #1 source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter.